Michael Boyles, StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 174 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyles, StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 3 days for just $1. And if you have a staff of 2 or more and you want to sign up as a group, we have a special membership offer for you, up to 50% off, depending on how many people you got. Check it out at StrengthCoach.com. I'm your host, Anthony Rana, and the show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. Want to get in touch with me? Shoot me an email to StrengthCoachPodcast@gmail.com. All right, on the Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about teaching the single leg deadlift, what he means when he says do 20 reps of your 10 RM, and the 1-year anniversary of the Certified Functional Strength Coach. We also have Kevin Larrabee on to talk about what's happening at the CSFC and where it's going. That and much more coming up on the Coach's Corner in a little while. For the Ask the Equipment experts with Perform Better, Aaron McGurr joins us to talk about the current sale, upcoming education, and a new 80-pound vest. For the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment, Rachel Cosgrove is on to talk about getting referrals. And for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have Jessie Stensland, former Division I swimmer. She's also had a successful career as a pro triathlete. She's the creator of Movement U, and her latest project, she's the founder of Feet Freaks. Jessie's on to talk about how her journey of past injuries led her to understand the importance of foot health. We're going to talk a little bit about foot anatomy, why the foot should have proper width, and what's wrong with footwear. Also talk about Jessie's current project, Feet Freaks. That and much more coming up with Jessie in a little while. On the Art of Coaching with Exos, Bob Calvin picks up where Stefan Underwood left off with a discussion of the integration of the nutrition team with the performance and therapy teams. And for the Functional Movement System segment, Dr. Jimmy Yuan is on to talk about the initial 7 movements of the SFMA. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. Now it's time for the Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, Coach. We're gonna start with we're gonna cut you short today because we got Kevin Larrabee on to talk about the CSFC, and we're gonna talk to you a little bit about that. It's you guys have been doing it for a year now, but let's start out with a forum topic that got a lot of movement. And that was teaching the single leg deadlift. I thought this was a really interesting discussion. You had an interesting discussion, you said, in your staff meeting, talking about using the reaching single leg deadlift with 2 hands, which I personally don't like. I know Sean Skane said he didn't like that. You were using that as your phase 1, and a cross-body reach as a regression. Now you've been thinking about the cross-body as a phase 1. Brad Kaczmarski started talking about using a 25-pound plate as a dumbbell because he felt like it contacted the ground sooner and it keeps people in a better position, which I feel like that's kind of the big problem, which is why I like the 2-handed version, like with a body bar or depending on who it is, a barbell. That seems to be a little heavy, when teaching. Talk to us about this thread and where you're at right now with how you'd like to kind of teach people the single leg deadlift position.
Yeah, it's funny. I posted it because Kevin Larrabee had brought it up at the staff meeting. So you're on the Kevin Larrabee side, just so you know, when you interview Kevin after this, you can talk to him about that in terms of thinking that the 2-handed version is better. Mm-hmm. I'm still not, my jury is still out. We just talked about it again in today's staff meeting. One of the things I love about this staff meeting and kind of about our environment is that I can say to everybody, hey, go out on the floor and do this, and then come back and tell me what you think. And I always encourage you, do it with the worst people you can. But really good point, and I don't know whether it's Kevin Carr or Kevin Larrabee. One of the Kevins made a really good point today in the staff meeting about the fact that the reason that the adults can't do it and the reason that the kids can't do it are not the same reason. Hence, the solution may not be the same solution, which I thought, that's pretty interesting. And I may actually add some more to the thread after we get off this call, because one of the things that, Kevin was saying is it's usually a hip mobility thing for the adults. And so that's one kind of set of corrections. Whereas for the kids, it's a motor control thing. And so that's another set of corrections. And my thing in the staff meeting today that we were talking about was just that, particularly now with CFFC and the way we're writing our progressions and all this stuff, we need to have an answer. We can't have sort of an ambiguous, we can't have an it depends, we can't have a you can try one of these three things kind of answer. We need to be able to say this is step one, this is step two, this is step three. And so I think I don't think we have that yet right now. I don't think we've arrived at that point where we're able to say, yes, here is the best way to do it. I like the one I put up. I think Kaz's idea. I like the plate because I think one of the problems that you run into, obviously, is people going into thoracic flexion trying to get the dumbbell to where they think it should go. And I do think some of it is the teaching. I try to tell everybody, you've got to teach it like it's a hamstring stretch. And so have people with the mental or the visual that what you're trying to do is get a hamstring stretch. If you feel like you're getting a hamstring stretch, you're doing this right. If you don't feel like you're getting a hamstring stretch, you're doing it wrong. So I'll tell people a lot of times, go till you feel like it's a hamstring stretch and then come back up, because a lot of times people they think I should get to the ground. And so as a result, when they kind of hit the end of that hip range of motion, then they move into thoracic flexion initially, and then some of them will get all the way to lumbar flexion if they're really stiff. So I think the good thing is I like the fact when I get a thread started and it ends up being pretty good, because it makes me feel like I'm contributing to the site beyond just my answers to somebody else's question.
No, it did. And what's funny is, see, the thing I don't like about the dumbbell is I think you're right in terms of they don't know where to put it. And I what I find with the dumbbell is people seem to kind of reach forward. So like they're trying to go like 3, 4, 6 inches in front of their foot, which is obviously going to put more stress on the back.
Yeah.
And then, I think there was some discussion about, that let's say we're doing it, left leg is down, that right hip is going to kind of stay up there. So there's some rotation, and that's where a problem lies. I find with the bar first and the two hands is I can easily say, just slide this bar down your thigh. And I feel like it keeps it there. And then they have a point also. I kind of say, just go a little bit below your knee. Again, remember everybody, I'm working with older folks. I don't love the hamstring stretch part, because then I think people are forgetting to bend that knee a little bit. But talk to me about those things.
Yeah, no, I think that's all, like, they're all really good ideas. I just wrote a couple of notes down, because the other thing that I used to do, and I realize sometimes I do things and then I don't tell the rest of the staff to do them, is I would have somebody, particularly the people that are learning, hold a lighter dumbbell like the hex head dumbbell, but hold it by the knob, by the hex head, so that it's longer, more like the plate. And then I would tell them, okay, try to put the other end of the dumbbell next to your foot, like put it right by the arch of your foot. So I'd give them that kind of aiming point of where they want it to be. And like when you were saying about the hamstring stretch, I'd probably correct that if I had someone who tended to go straight leg. And that doesn't tend to be as big a problem for us. Someone who doesn't bend anymore, it's almost, sometimes I think it's the reverse in terms of some people try to bend too much. But it's interesting. I actually like the fact that we're still arguing about simple things, and we talked about this in the staff meeting. We had a video of some changes we want to make or some corrections for dumbbell row. We were talking about push-ups. There are still some really simple exercises that I don't think we've arrived at the optimal way. Like, hey, this is how you teach it. This is the optimal way to teach it, and it'll work for everybody. And maybe that doesn't exist. But as I say with everything else, you've always got to be shooting for that and then kind of work your way out of it.
Agreed. And, the part of it is there's so many different, there's different clientele. There's different, there's some motor morons out there, right? Then there's people like, for the people like me who have older people come in, they're not as athletic sometimes. They haven't done anything. It could be hard. A lot of times it's a balance issue. One of the things I've found, and maybe because I just got off the phone with Jessie Stensland, she's on this episode, we're talking all about the foot, is a lot of people with certain footwear that they have on, that could also be, if they have the big heels on their sneakers, etc. It's kind of pushing them a little bit forward. And also the surface. Are they on the mats or are they on the turf? I think that could be a factor as well. But I think taking the shoes off. I found that taking the shoes off with a lot of people has helped as well.
Yeah, surface is huge. I tell people all the time, get them off the turf. If they're struggling, get them off the turf. Because although you'd think that doesn't make much of a difference, that's still an unstable surface. They're standing on a half inch of unstable surface, and it will make a difference in terms of the quality of their movement. And as you said, shoes off for us is tougher just because shoes off, shoes on, and people taking their shoes off in the weight room with it being crowded. So I tend to like to stay away from people taking their shoes off and just try to favor more getting people, as you said, out of the heeled types of shoes.
Good stuff. Coach, I'm a little confused. Split squat strength test. I'll probably go in a different direction, but you said, and you've said this before, and I never asked you about it, but initially you took a 10 RM load and said, do as many as you can, stopping at 20. And almost everyone did 20. Next time we took a 5 RM load and said stop at 10. I'm just a little confused about RM. Isn't that rep max? Isn't it really the 10 RM supposed to be kind of a number we're supposed to be able to stop? We have a hard time getting to 10.
The problem is with lower body, I think people have perception. That's, I guess, the point is that you take something that, maybe, and in theory, the person is lifting the right amount of weight. If you say, hey, 10 RM load, do as many as you can. If they do 10, they were right.
Okay.
If they do 20, they were wrong, and we have to adjust up next week. And I think that's the important thing to understand is that when you really say to somebody, hey, this is one set, all or nothing, go for it, get as many as you can, particularly in that athletic group, we found that almost every single person we tested got 20 at loads they were doing 10 with before, and got 10 at loads they were doing 5 with before.
Jeez.
So what that told us, for one, is I always say this, people don't train to failure with their lower body like they do with their upper body. If you watch somebody bench press, somebody will bench press, and you can pretty much guarantee that 5 RM is 5 RM. Mm-hmm. That they've done, if you say, okay, how many could you do for 5? They know how many they could do, and they couldn't do 6. But I think if you look at lower body with a lot of people, they're going to be like, yeah, they've done this. But they've never, they don't train their lower body in that same sort of life and death style that they train their upper body with. They're pretty content. Like, yeah, because, and we had that, I remember 4 or 5 years ago when the hockey girls first started coming, I had a linebacker for the Patriots come in, and he's split squat, and he's got 20 kilo kettlebells in each hand. And he's thinking, hey, this is pretty good. I got 20 kilos in each hand. And then one of the girls comes along with 28 and just bumps out 10 with 28 like nothing. He's like, oh, I think I got to pick it up a little. But in his mind, he was kind of like, well, that was hard. But amazingly, the next set he did 28s. And next day he did 32s. And so I do think, and it goes back, it's funny, there's an old book, Randall Strawson wrote a book called Super Squats. And that's one of the things that he was talking about in Super Squats was the best way to get strong was to take a weight you could squat for 10 and do it for 20. That was how the book starts. And the idea was one of these, like, you got to train a little harder. And so if you got 10 on 10 RM loads, then you've been doing a pretty good job with your athletes in terms of selecting weights. We get a lot closer now, and that's one of the problems. That's why I said we're going to the one-leg squat test, because what's happened to us is it's really become more of a, I don't want it to be a two-legged exercise. And when you start having these do as many as you can do tests, people are really starting to try to figure out how much can I contribute with my back leg? How hard can I push down with my backside hip flexor to help me get back up again? Mm-hmm. Which is not at all what we want. And I think that's where you get into some of the stuff about SI joint problems and shear forces. And so that's why we're going to move. But the problem is, with that one-leg squat test, if I had said initially, we're going to test one-leg squats to parallel with 60 pounds with our girls, people would have been like, you're crazy. People are going to get zeros. Whereas now I look at it and think we may very well have that same situation of, okay, put it on and stop at 10. And I won't be surprised if all of our girls get 10 with 60 in terms of external load. And especially when you look at Devin's clip of the guy with 200, which is just crazy.
Interesting.
And that's why I keep go back to the whole kind of how strong is strong? What's strong? How do you define strong?
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like the people in our world, I don't want to say the Mike Boyle people, but the people in our world in a lot of ways are redefining a lot of things about this field on a fairly regular basis. When you see the video clip of Alex Carpenter doing 45 for 7 chin-ups, you think, okay, I guess this idea of girls not having great strength to body weight ratio is not all that big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, there's so much stuff that you believe, and it goes back to, in that How Strong is Strong article that I reposted, it's that 4-minute mile thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one could run, and that's the whole idea. No one could run the 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did. And then suddenly 16 people could the next year. And you would say, well, that's impossible. It took all these years for one guy to do it, and then in a couple of months, 16 more people did it. But that's the power of, I guess, of perception and knowledge.
Absolutely. And speaking of knowledge, Coach, I have Kevin Larrabee coming on right now, right after you. We're gonna talk a few minutes about the 1-year anniversary of the CSFC. Just briefly, what are you happy about with this? That you're kind of surprised about the direction that you've gone with this. What's good about this?
2 things are really good. One, we certified 650 people the first year, which amazed me. I did not anticipate that it would be that successful. So that was awesome. And Kevin and Brendan and Marco, who've done the lion's share of the teaching, have done an amazing job. The other thing that I'm really happy about is the amount of positive feedback that we've gotten has been off the charts. I mean, really, in all honesty, surprising to me that we would consistently get this best continuing education class I've ever been to, best continuing education money I've ever spent, and not once or twice, but I'm talking, we might have 100 of those testimonials stacked up right now from people who voluntarily sent those into us, that it was the best thing they've ever done. So there's nothing that I'm really unhappy about. I think the big thing with us now is we need to keep the quality high and not become, one of the things we talk about is we want to be an education company and not a certification company. I think what happened in most of these certification situations is that people got into the business of selling certification. And as a result, they stopped worrying about the quality of what they were doing, and they started worrying about how many certifications are we going to do this year. And that's why I think the quality of the certifications goes down.
All right, very cool. Well, we know you're, from the conversations here that you're, it keeps evolving, so it's awesome. And we're gonna get on the phone with Kevin right now. So, Coach, thanks for coming on, and we will talk to you next time.
All right, thanks.
All right, I'm here with Kevin Larrabee. We're going to talk about the CSFC. Kev, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. It's always great to be on Strength Coach Podcast. You continue to kick ass with this show.
I still can't beat the FitCast, though. I'm still always below. It doesn't matter. Every time I think, oh, man, I'm number 30 now, I look down 27, the FitCast.
Well, it's like we're the White Sox and the Cubs or something like that. Like we're just like in the same town. We're both playing baseball, and we're usually always having winning records, and we're making the playoffs. So what's the big deal?
It's true. No competition. All right. Kev, we're here to talk about your 1-year anniversary. First of all, congratulations. You've done some great work on this. You've really worked your butt off on Certified Functional Strength Coach, the certification. Great job.
Oh, thank you so much. Like this is, if people are listening and you see me at like a Perform Better Summit, or you see me at like some other event, or you just talk to me in passing about this stuff, hopefully you can kind of see the enthusiasm that comes across when I talk about this, because there's nothing, I don't think there's anything more important that I've done in this industry than worked on the CFSC, because I mean, we've seen just in the first year the impact that it's had on the level of coaching in the industry and just the bar that's been raised across the board. And it's been outstanding in terms of the reaction so far.
Very cool. You know, Coach Boyle was talking about all the positive reaction that you've gotten, but Kev, what like I kind of wanted to see what some things that he wasn't expecting, but what are some things you guys have definitely evolved and changed in such a short time? Talk to us about some of that those changes.
Absolutely. Like when we went and like we spent about, I want to say 18 months prepping for the very first event. Like we did not just say, all right, in June, hey, we should do this certification thing. And then in October, launch it. We spent about 18 months working through it and figuring out exactly like how would we want to do a certification if we had to do one? Because Mike always got that question. It's like, what's the best certification out there? Are you going to do? And he's like, no, because a lot of the certifications out there, they're not necessarily, they're good educational opportunities, but at the end of the day, we just didn't think there was a ton of value in everything that was being offered out there. Of course, there's great certifications out there, and there's great continuing ed courses out there. But if we ever get into anything, just like we did with MBSE Thrive or Body by Boyle Online or StrengthCoach.com, you got to think, how are we going to produce something that we can be extremely proud of and continue to want to work on years forward? So I think we had a really good product when we launched in October of last year of 2014, and we can kind of just going by the feedback that initial group that we had of 60 people at MBSC that day, and we just continue to want to improve it, because once you have that level 1 curriculum done, like, you want to continue to make it better, because you have some time now that you have that level 1 stuff done. Let's continue to make it better. And we did that by just adding small things like a private Facebook group where all the CFSCs can get together and talk with each other and ask Mike questions, ask me questions, Kevin Carr, Brendan Rurick, and that's been great. And we just last night we did our very first private Google Hangout for CFSCs to again continue to ask questions, because sometimes that text format is even better when you get to ask follow-up questions live while we're doing that stuff. We've also put together a Find a CFSC Near You map, so we can not only allow people to help spread what they're doing via our website, but also we can refer out. We know, like, I can't tell you how many calls we get at the gym of like, hey, like, I'm in Denver. Is there any way that I can just get your programs and do them here? Is there anyone in Denver that you would recommend? Now we can just say, hey, we have this map at certifiedfsc.com. Just go on there, type in your zip code. You can find all the CFSCs near you. And like, we make sure people can move well, coach well, and understand our MBSE system before they pass, because it's all at the practical event. It's required. They have to prove to us that they can do it before we do any of that stuff. So I mean, those are definitely the big things that we've improved upon. And then, like, finally, I wrote like a 25-page manual for level 1, just breaking up all of our coaching cues and doing, to the best of my ability, downloading like my brain if I was coaching someone through all those various movements. And we're going to continue to add to that as we go forward.
Very cool. I mean, I think, Coach Boyle and I, a lot of times we'll be talking about something and he'll always mention, yeah, we added this, or we're changing this, or we're looking at the regressions here. So it's great to see such an evolving process going on, which is very cool. And obviously I know all the parties involved, and I know the work that you guys put in, the good stuff that you guys do. So Kev, just let's do really quickly, because I want to get into what's happening, because you guys have some stuff happening in January that's going to change, some future stuff. But give me a rundown for somebody who doesn't know. What is? I sign up, I get the manual in the mail, I do all my stuff online. Then when I go in there, it's all practical stuff. Just give me the structure of how this works for somebody who's looking to go to get their cert, level 1.
So for all this stuff, we get most of it done online. So you can do it on demand whenever you have some free time. You can jump on there. But you can go to certifiedfsc.com. There's just a page on there that has all of our events. Pretty much everything for the rest of 2015 is already closed and sold out. So you're going to be kind of looking at 2016 now. But once you register on there, you're going to get access to the back end of our website. That includes about 4 hours of lecture content. It has an ebook version of Mike's Advanced and Functional Training. It also has that level 1 manual that I mentioned before. Once you go through that material, that might take you, depending on how familiar you are with Mike's stuff, maybe between 6 and 12 hours. After you go through that, you have to take a 50-question multiple choice written exam. Again, that's done online, so you can do it whenever you have the time to do it. It just has to be done 2 weeks before the event. Once you go in there, you take that multiple choice test, which is not incredibly hard. We want to make sure that you understand the methodologies of MBSE, so we don't have to take 2 days of your time at an event. We can just use 1 day of your time, because like that, when we were putting all this stuff together, I was a personal trainer in the trenches, like working at a Boston sports club. You bet your ass I was in there on Sundays and Saturdays working, because that's when people had the most flexible schedule. So I was doing PT then. So we make sure that we only have 1 day of live event stuff, so we don't take up too much of your time, especially if you're going to be traveling and things like that. So once you pass that written exam, you come to the event that you registered for. And at that event, we go all day in terms of practical content. Like, we don't do any lecture stuff. It's just you get there at 8 a.m., you register, and from 8:30 to about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, we're going to be just going through the MBSE program. For level 1, it's mostly our adult program. So we're going to break things down bit by bit, from our foam rolling, stretching, activation, our FMS corrective circuit, our active warm-up, med ball and plyos, and of course our strength training stuff. And with all that, we go through the progressions or regressions that we most commonly use in the situations that would pop up where we would need to use those. So you get a little bit of that art of coaching just in a super fast effect. We try to give you as much as humanly possible in that day. At the end, you will be tested on your ability to do these, movement patterns, coach them. And what we usually ask is for like 3 or 4 clear and concise coaching cues, because the last thing you want to do is spend 10 minutes teaching someone how to do a single arm dumbbell row. And then we would also ask you for a progression or a regression. Like, I might ask you for, like, how would you progress a split squat? And obviously we would go to a riff elevated split squat. So, we would also test you on a couple drills that might be something like lateral skipping. We want to make sure, I'll be real, you're going to be tested on your ability to move laterally. Like, we have all seen it at the Perform Better Summits. Those are great, awesome people, the great part of the fitness world that's going to those events. But sometimes you go into those hands-on rooms and you see those, motor moron kind of people. Like, going to Martin Rooney, not Martin Rooney's, Nick Winkelman's, like, hands-on, and see when he's doing like the sprint mechanic stuff, and you'd be like, man, these people are using right arm, right leg, left arm, left leg. But people fail. People do fail our practical tests, but it is because we want to make sure, like, everyone that is a CFSE, like, they have that stamp of approval from MBSE. Like, they could literally, if I'm out sick, they could come in and take my group, and I would be like, all right, I know they're going to be able to coach this stuff. I know they're going to be able to demo everything and go through this program without me having to worry about it. And that's the big thing that's always going to differentiate us, is that practical component. We're never going to do an online only thing.
And that's, 2 things. The test before you get, before day 1, I think everybody should be doing that. You have to have some. I mean, we've all been to these 2 days where we're like, this could have been condensed to 1 day if people knew we weren't asking 25 questions that probably should not have been asked. And you, like you said, the practical. My favorite certification is the SFG. And Mike doesn't love it because it's 100 snatch. It's a little hard. Not everybody can do it. And I respect that. But at the same time, I like the fact that you guys, look, you got to be able to demonstrate 1 or 2. You don't have to do 100 in 5 minutes, but you should be able to demonstrate. So very cool.
They have their reasons for that, for sure. And that's a great organization. And
absolutely.
And the other thing I was just going to say is, oh man, maybe I totally just lost my train of thought. But like you were kind of saying, it's like we do need to make sure that everyone can move well, and that is unfortunately not a common thing in our industry. I did remember, so I'm sorry, and I'm not calling anything out. 2 days certifications are great, but like you said, we always we're always looking at the best value and, eliminating expenses that aren't needed there. And like that, having a 2-day cert to have an extra night of a hotel room or an extra day of lost work away from your family, stuff like that, where like, this is a lecture. Like it didn't change. Like you don't have to do it live. If you have questions, you can just email support@certifiedfsc.com. Those go right to me, and I can always, if I don't have the answer, I can send it to Mike, I can send it to Kevin Carr or Brendan Rarick that did the lectures.
Very cool. Well, okay. Level 1, you talked, it's mostly general pop. You have an announcement for level 2s coming up in January. Very cool. Where are we going with this?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be having our very first level 2 event. It's something that we're going to try to do in the fall of this year, but we ended up just having, like you said, we certified 650 people. We had a ton of demand for level 1, and we wanted to fulfill as much of that as possible to have a big pool for level 2. You do have to, just to mention this, you have to pass level 1 to even do level 2 because we're building off of the foundations and stuff you did in level 1. So just like for the lecture stuff, like we don't have to then go over all that stuff again. We know you know that stuff, so we can just go right into what level 2 is, and that's going to be more of our athlete program. So again, we're building off the foundations to level 1, but we're adding in things like some more stuff in the warm-up, like advanced plyometrics and ballistics, our med-ball work, also our speed and conditioning stuff, as well as in the weight room, we're obviously going to be focusing on our Olympic lifting, our kettlebell swings, our dumbbell snatch, and for strength training stuff, our barbell bench press, trap bar deadlift, and things like that we wouldn't necessarily have in our adult program, but you can bet your butt that they're going to be in the athlete program. And along with that, we're going to be talking about, when you're going to use these exercises, when you're not going to use them, how we coach them, how we progress them, how we regress them. And along with all that, level 2 is going to have a lot more in-depth look at our programming structure, because that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got from level 1 is like people wanted to know exactly how and the why behind all of our programming. And that's just like, at the end of the day, it would have just been so much information it wouldn't have worked out. So that's something that we're going to kind of add with level 2, and it'll probably be sprinkled in a little bit into level 1 as we get into next year too, because this, like, we don't just stop creating content for this stuff. Like the level 1 stuff is going to get refreshed about every 6 to 12 months. And everyone that's certified now, they still have access to all that stuff. So they're going to continue to get the new content after we update it. It's not something like, oh yeah, it's $150 for 2016's content. No, like we are not, like we're 5 people. This company is 5 people. We don't have to gouge you for all this stuff. We just want to make sure that you continue moving forward with the most up-to-date version of what we do at MBSC, so you can continue to just, to be honest, be a great spokesperson for the CFSC. Like, you're going to be a great role model of what this program can do for coaches and trainers out there.
Very cool. Well, you guys have done a great job so far. Like we said, we've gotten some great feedback from everybody. So congrats on your 1-year anniversary, and looking forward to more success in 2016 and the level 2.
Anthony, thank you so much for the time to talk about this stuff, and thank you everyone out there listening and supporting everything we do at MBSC, whether it be strengthcoach.com, Strength Coach Podcast, Body Bubble Online, and now with the certified functional strength coach stuff. You guys are awesome out there, and again, Anthony, thank you for continuing to do what you do.
All right, now it's time for the Ask the Equipment Experts with Perform Better. I am here with the catalog queen, Erin McGurr.
How are you?
I'm better than you, I guess, right? This catalog's driving me nuts.
It's a very stressful time of year for me, so if anyone calls in and they haven't been able to reach me, I apologize, but it is crunch time for the catalog, and I'm trying to make it great for everyone.
Do not dial her.
Stress levels are high.
Let's talk really quick. A bunch of people, Charlie, Dose, Brandon, Alan, they were all announcing their dates, and those 4 people, well, it's Martin, Charlie, Brandon, and Alan.
Cosgrove.
Yes, they will all be at the New Jersey one day. Just give us a quick reminder about that.
Well, you can definitely sign up online right now. We do have registration open, and we are still having the early bird price. So I know that's going to be ending soon for New Jersey, just because that's the first one, so time gets cut a little short for those people. But registration is open for all of our one days in addition to New Jersey. I know New Jersey kind of kicks it off. I'll be there, so I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. I love kicking off our season. of education. So that'll be fun. And again, it's going to be in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, Saturday, December 5th. So hopefully I will see a lot of people out there.
All right. Very cool. What is the sale we got going on right now?
The sale right now, we are having free shipping on all orders over $49 going ground. It's going to be continuing for the rest of this week and even over the weekend. So for everything from ropes, medicine balls, test kits, bands, TRXs, ultimate sandbags, pretty much you name it, with the exception of a couple items. But free shipping, now's the time to take advantage of it and maybe get some early Christmas presents.
There you go. There you go. Nice.
That's so scary.
It is. E, we were talking last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about it on the show, but you guys have been getting, you guys do a lot of stuff based off of the feedback that people give you. And people were talking about, and that's another thing we should talk about, the feedback, the contest. The vests, the weighted vests, I mean, you guys had a lot of people talking about getting a heavier vest. Talk to us about that.
We did. We always get that question, and it's so funny because, so many people do single leg squats, and they're saying, it's hard to use the bench or my facility, and that's kind of how the single leg squat piece came about. Is we were looking for something, to help people do that, and that became huge. And now people started doing obviously external loads on them, and whether it was kettlebells, dumbbells, weighted vests, whatever kind of outside resistance they had, they were adding to certain exercises. But we were getting a lot of people, especially our hockey guys, asking for something heavier. I know most of the time we have just a 20-pound vest. And so what we came out with this year after high demand, which surprises me because unfortunately I was the one that had to help product test it, and it sucked. But it is an 84-pound weight vest. So
how do you get that thing on?
I had Milani help me. I could get it on. I couldn't get it off. That was the problem.
Okay.
Little push press kind of hit me in the face. But it's 84 pounds. The vest holds actually 14 weights in the front and 14 weights in the back. So at least the weight's distributed evenly. So that helped out a lot. It's just simple Velcro flaps to kind of keep the weight in. So you can change them. The weights are right around 3 pounds each. So the one thing about it that's a little different, it is a camouflage kind of material and look. Instead of having a basic black, we did get a lot of firefighters and military and first responders kind of asking for more of a camo vest. So it's a little different. I know people aren't used to that, but we did come out with it. I know I sent it to a couple people. Feedback's been good on it. And it's just, like I said, great to have on. Feels good, not bad. It will definitely load you up. The problem I had with it was obviously taking it off, but I'm sure not everyone will have the same problem as I did. So it is up on our website right now. Like it is our heaviest weight vest. Something new that will be going in the catalog. We just launched it a little early because of the demand. So I would say if anyone's out there looking for something much heavier than the standard 20-pound vest and doesn't want to keep doubling or tripling or quadrupling up on that, I would definitely take a look at it.
All right, or putting all the chains on. So,
exactly. And I know, sorry, I'm totally cutting you off, but like you mentioned before, kind of getting feedback, that is where we get a lot of our ideas from. So we have been running a sweepstakes. I know we've been doing it for a little while, but it's kind of, I don't think everyone knows about it. And what it is, it's for our product reviews. So we have product reviews up on our website. And really, if you do a star rating and kind of write what you like or don't like about the product and rate them, you automatically get entered into a sweepstakes that we have where every month we pull out a random person and they win a $50 Perform Better gift card. So It's pretty cool that really you don't have to purchase anything. It's really just for the reviews. And again, we do go through them, so it helps us kind of review the product, find out what people like, what people don't like. It's only going to help us make changes to products. We get very involved in, product design and product selection and kind of making the best for everyone that's the most practical. So it's kind of a you help me, we help you type of thing. But if people do take the time, they will be entered into that. So I would definitely try and get online and help us out and write some reviews.
All right, very cool. E, we will let you get back to that catalog that you're working so hard on. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone, welcome to the Functional Movement Systems segment of the podcast. My name is Dr. Jimmy Ewan, based out in Arizona. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the initial 7 assessments of the Selective Functional Movement Assessment, the SFMA. There's a little difference between the two, between the FMS, or the Functional Movement Screen, and the SFMA. But there's also one major similarity between the initial assessment, which would be the overhead deep squat. The difference between the overhead deep squat between the FMS, where we're just going to score a 3, a 2, and a 1, whereas the SFMA, we're going to break that down a little bit more into the parts component of it. We're also looking, when we're in the SFMA, we're more of a trying to pain recreation mode, and also looking for the sites of the causes of the pain. So we'll use slightly different assessments. The 7 major assessments, as I mentioned already, one would be the overhead deep squat. There is an upper extremity assessment similar to the shoulder mobility that we would see in the functional movement screen, except it's done with one arm at a time as opposed to both. We'll do a screen for the cervical. We'll do a screen for whole body flexion, meaning a toe touch, looking at the whole body as a system, looking at the body, how it extends, the whole body as an extension system, looking how the whole body rotates to the left and to the right, and also looking at a single leg stance or of a balance component. We'll use these initial assessments when somebody's in pain to try again to find the cause of the pain, or to find the cause of the site of the pain. If you're looking for any more information, please look up the website, functionalmovementsystems.com.
Hi, everybody. It's Rachel Cosgrove. This is the Strength Coach Podcast, and this is the Business of Fitness segment. I'm excited today to talk to you about getting referrals. Referrals are one of the best sources of new members you can get. And so I really want to talk about how can we create a culture, a community of a referral community where our clients are constantly sending us new referrals. And this is, when we're looking at our marketing and we're looking at getting new clients, the number one source are referrals. If you're not getting referrals from your clients, we really need to take a look at why not. Why aren't our clients sending us people? Because we really want to build what we call raving fans. And that's actually a great book by Ken Blanchard, Raving Fans. Really, that's your goal, is to get your clients to the point where they can't help but tell their friends. And their friends can't help but notice their results and say, where are you working out at? I need to go there. Because that's going to be the easiest way to get new members. And then from there, we can always add other marketing to that. But number one, we got to get referrals. So how do we do that? One of the most effective ways that we found to get referrals is using what we call a VIP card, VIP membership card. So what we do is we listen for, during a session, when our clients are coming in, working out, we listen for a specific person. We listen for them to mention somebody, whether they say, I was telling my sister Susan about this place and telling her all about my workouts. Right then, I have a name, I have a specific person, and at that point, by the end of her workout, I'm going to get a VIP membership card. I'm going to write Susan's name on it, and then I'm going to tell my client, this is a gift for you. And take note of those words. This is a gift for you to give to your sister Susan. I know you mentioned her, and what we've seen is when people have support and they have people coming in who are friends and family, it helps your results. And so, we really want you to get even better results. And so this gift for you to give to your sister Susan, to have her come in and work out with you for a month. It's a 30-day VIP membership, and we would love to meet her and love to have her come in and join us for a month of your membership. From there, she's gonna leave the gym and immediately call Susan. She has a specific person in her head who she's going to call and say, hey, guess what? I have a free 30-day VIP pass for you to come in and work out with me. I know I've been telling you about my gym. Now's your chance. Come work out with me. From there, Susan's going to show up and she's going to go through our strategy session. And we're actually going to go ahead and listen again for Susan to mention somebody. And when she mentions somebody, we are going to, again, give a VIP membership card. So this can turn into exponentially more members when you start to listen to your clients and listen for who they would want to come in, and then specifically give this VIP card to a specific person. I think one of the mistakes people make when they're trying to get referrals is we don't get specific enough. We basically say to our members, hey, if you want to send me anybody, I'd love some referrals. And it never, the client never has that where they actually picture the specific person that they're going to be referring to you. So this works great. As you put this into place, you'll notice that you're going to get more and more people coming in. And then the other piece of this is really creating that culture of referrals in your gym and celebrating referrals, letting everybody know when somebody does refer, making sure you recognize them. We have a board up that it's what we call the We Think You Rock board. And we write everyone's name up there if they refer us somebody. So each month there's, a couple names on the board. Clients will come in and see the board and know that, these people were referring us people and that it's something that we celebrate and something that we appreciate. And we're going to recognize those clients who do send us referrals. And you can also give them some kind of a referral bonus. We do some club bucks and, really to thank them and let them know that we really do appreciate their referrals and really make that part of our community, part of our culture, so that way, they continue to refer us. So anytime someone does refer you a client, make sure you go out of your way to thank them, make a big deal about it, because that's going to encourage that behavior and encourage them to continue to keep referring you new clients. So put that into place, get yourself tons of referrals, new leads coming in your door, and build that business. Thank you everybody for tuning in this week. We'll be back in the next couple weeks on this Strength Coach Podcast Business of Fitness segment. Definitely check out resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Jump on our email list. That's where you're going to get our ongoing updates of what we're up to at Results Fitness University to stay in the loop. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Hi, this is Bob Calvin for the Art of Coaching with Exos. I'm a performance dietitian at the Exos Florida facility in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Several weeks ago, I had a wonderful discussion with my teammate, Stephen Underwood, regarding his recent 3-part series on this podcast. Hopefully, you're able to listen and learn from this series, but if you missed it, Stephen discussed fostering a strong coach-athlete relationship through education, feedback, and integration between specialists. Today, I would like to pick up where Stephen left off and discuss how we, at our facility, integrate nutrition with performance and therapy. The 3 strategies that I would like to highlight are accessibility, gaining understanding of athlete demands, and integrating those demands into nutrition programming. First off, I believe that in order to serve the athlete and effectively integrate nutrition into their life, you need to be accessible. I feel that in the computer age, we as a society have, in some respects, become overly dependent on computers and technology. While technology is important and can aid our work, it can often take away from human interaction, effectively isolating us from those we are supposed to be serving, aka spending countless hours at your desk writing emails. Several years ago, I spoke to our therapy team about creating a workspace within their area. They were all for the idea, and now that is where our nutrition team prefers to spend their time. This puts us right on the performance floor and creates a nutrition presence outside of an office or classroom. It has been a huge upgrade for us, allowing for more frequent interactions between the nutrition team and the athletes, but also therapy and coaching staffs. If we're not in this area, you can typically find us present at meals. I found that dialogue and questions addressed in this setting are often more impactful than the same interaction within a classroom or office. This accessibility has also allowed us as a nutrition team to support our therapy and performance teammates. For example, I'm often asked by our therapy staff to lend a helping hand. Nothing technical, of course. Another great example is this January and February, the nutrition team executed a daily athlete readiness questionnaire at breakfast. This data that we hand-delivered to the coaching and therapy teams helped them better customize their interactions with the athletes. It also truly illustrated to the athletes that we were all working together towards a common goal of serving them. These last 2 examples of accessibility and teammate support lead us to the next key to integrating nutrition into the athlete-centric model, and that is gaining an understanding of the athlete's world beyond nutrition time. Each day, the majority of the athletes in our building train twice and receive various degrees of therapy. As a consequence, they spend a vast amount of time with our performance specialist and therapy team. So in order to understand the athlete's demands, we must first take an interest and develop an understanding of our teammates' work. If we don't understand the goals and structure of an acceleration movement session or a max strength lower body lift, how can we, as the dietitians, complement this work with proper fueling strategies? I found that the first-hand experiences previously discussed to be invaluable in this pursuit of understanding. Aiding in a manual therapy session or conducting a readiness questionnaire provides ample opportunities for the nutrition team to ask our teammates questions and learn why the athletes are doing what they are doing. Understanding your teammates' world goes a long way, but to take it to the next level, you must put this understanding to use in your world. This leads us to our last key, integrating feedback from your teammates into education and programming. Over the past several years, our therapy staff has utilized a scoring system to reflect athlete restriction. Based around injuries, every movement pattern, upper push horizontal, upper push vertical, upper pull horizontal, upper pull vertical, etc., will be assigned a number. 0 equals off limits. 1 equals patterning, isometric or corrective. 2 equals low impact or low intensity. 3 equals cleared for full movement in GPP or hypertrophy themes. And finally a 4, which is cleared for movements in all performance themes. These numbers ensure that the coaching staff chooses the appropriate training theme and that within the theme the appropriate modalities or movements are implemented. After learning the purpose of this system, I decided that it would be appropriate and effective to use this valuable information to guide our nutrition programming. We as the dietitians will take the sum of the athlete's restriction score and multiply that by a graded number representing the performance training theme the coach has selected. This results in a performance score. This performance score then drives the activity factor we use to estimate calories. For example, if an athlete has a performance score of 0 to 10, we will use an activity factor of 1.2. If they score 11 to 20, we will use an activity factor of 1.25, and so on. This activity factor is then combined with the athlete's weight goals to help guide macronutrient recommendations. If you think of it intuitively, an athlete with more restrictions will move less. Moving less equals less fuel burned, which should result in less fuel needed. This is a relatively simple concept, but often gets lost in translation or no progression is followed. We have found that by utilizing this system, we're more consistent with our nutrition programming, and it also makes for fun discussions with the athletes. And hopefully focusing on accessibility, understanding athlete demands, and integrating those demands into your nutrition programming will help you to continue to foster an athlete-centric approach in your respective settings. For more information about Exos education, please visit us at www.teamexos.com/education.
All right, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach, and today I have on Jessie Stensland. And if you remember, Jessie was a Division I college swimmer who had an extremely successful career as a professional triathlete, and that's when I met her 10 years ago down at Athletes Performance, which we all know is Exos now. The last time we had her on the show, we were talking about her company that she created called Movement U, recently, she started a new company called Feet Freaks, which is a global grassroots community focusing on educating people about the foot with a mission of inspiring change within the footwear industry. Jessie, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks a lot for having me, Anthony.
All right. Well, like we were talking earlier, when I saw that you were doing this, it intrigued me because I think the pendulum had really swung really far after Born to Run came out, and lots of people were getting the Vibram 5 fingers and talking about barefoot, and which was cool for me because I told you that when I had gone down to see Todd Wright. Todd was really talking a lot about the foot. He opens his lectures with there's 26 bones in the feet, which means each foot, and that's 52 bones in the feet. There's 207 in the body, so 25% of your bones are in your feet. They got to be pretty important. So I think for me, he was the one who was really starting to talk about it, and then Born to Run came out. But I think there's been a shift where I haven't really heard a lot about it, and I still really try to educate my people about how important the feet are. So that's number one why I wanted to get you on to really kind of, talk about it a little bit more, especially from you, because with your career of being such a, with the triathlons and running, and you have an injury history, and it was interesting how we're going to tell the shower story later. Like I said, we'll keep it clean. But give us a little background of how you got to start to realize how important the feet were, and that really kind of seemed to me to that was really when you took that shower in 2007.
In the shower,
right?
I was. Yeah.
Okay.
Come along with me. Yes, and the shower has to do with having. Well, it could have been any shower, I suppose, but I'm a swimmer, so it was after a swim workout one day. And the reason I'm gonna backtrack from that just a sec. The foot, I'll give you the year. It was about 2008, and I came back to after a 2-year break from my training at Athletes Performance, a 2-year break, and I had a body that wasn't super capable, whereas 2 years prior it was a machine. So it's cool to have had this understanding what the body could do, and here I find myself 2 years later having it's now in shambles again. It's unstable, it's immobile, it's weak. I hadn't done a lot of anything. So that said, it wasn't working, and luckily for me, I knew it could. But I had to figure out why it wasn't. I didn't know why, and when I was trying to do my typical movement preparation at AP Exos, I couldn't stand on my right leg again. And so, of course, I heard, and I keep thinking about them saying, you engage your big toe. But in hindsight, I had shoes on, and they didn't know until I was in the shower. And I'll tell you that my big toe was not completely non-functional. And so it started just by going back to my training and just that right leg not working. My VMO was completely atrophied on that right side. We found that when I tried to do a quad set and couldn't even contract a quad. And still, we weren't putting the dots together. So my brain was still kind of on. So I'm in the shower that day, and I'm maybe just hanging over my feet, stretching out. And it came into clear focus that my right foot was way smaller than my left foot. And I don't mean just one little size, but the more I looked, the more the right toe was half the size of the left big toe. And there was more veins and muscles on my left foot, and there was nothing happening on my right foot. So it looked, and it would look normal to most anyone, but the comparison was there. And that's when I started to palpate and touch later in that day. And I found that I couldn't imagine. All I can say is imagine having had a cast on your big toe for, I'm thinking 2 years or some lengthy amount of time, where then you take it out of the cast and you couldn't bend any of the big toe joints. It was completely atrophied. There was no fat pad under the big toe. And it was just sitting there. So that was my shower story, when it kind of came to be that something was really wrong. My other big toe was, I could pick it off the ground. I could push it on the floor. I could do all these things with this left big toe, and I could do absolutely nothing. I couldn't lift it up. Couldn't lift it a fraction off the ground. And so I started to zone in on that at that point in the shower. Continue. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there you go. So then all that meant was that I started to focus on it, and in my own home, in my little movement area. And whereas I'd set out to do, say, movement prep before I do anything else. And I wasn't training seriously at the time, but I would get to the point where in movement prep that I realized I could get no further than the foot. And I would truly spend that entire 90 minutes up to 3 hours. And at times, hey, I'm a movement person, about up to 4 hours or whatever it was, sitting there just focused on that toe. And I gave myself, I had the time to give to it. I had the awareness, and no one else seemed to be able to help me with it. Right. So I literally I looked at the left foot, see what it could do. And I tried to get the right foot to be able to do it. And I massaged it out. I got everything I could do to get that movement going. And I started that by myself. That led me to being back at AP, actually at their LA facility, at Exos' LA facility. And for the first time, not using footwear in my movement sessions. So my movement or my strength sessions in the gym, I needed to see the foot move and activate. So I was using no footwear at that point. And I still did not hesitate to put it on, though, for anything else. So for my running sessions, my cycling sessions, I didn't think twice. I just thought, I'm going to have a great foot to put into footwear. And that I've heard other people say these days as well. And we've really got to move past that, because the limitations of footwear, it's pretty wild how it's affecting. But that is the logic, great foot goes into footwear and you're better off. And you are. And I was. And I really, where are we now? It really didn't start to evolve and understand the broad scope of footwear until it was 2011 that I got my first pair of 5 fingers. And I started to wear them more. And after that, I had a great season. And I have to say, one thing stands out. I was doing box jumps during one of my movement sessions that year, and I was going higher, and I was in the air longer. And I was very aware of that. And a friend asked me, do you know why? And I said, no, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I know about elasticity now and all that. But in the end, I now know it's because my feet had they continue to get wider. Even to this day, they continue to get wider and thicker and stronger. And I literally was expressing just my power better. So that was one of the first things I saw. Certainly my running times were great and as fast as they would be for the training loads I was doing, and felt really good about that. And it wasn't until I put my foot in cycle shoes months after that season in the winter that I realized my foot didn't fit in my cycling shoe, that it made me realize there's more to the story, because I hadn't thought twice about putting cycle shoes on that entire summer while I was now growing my foot. It still felt comfortable in the cycle shoe. It was until after the season I took about 3 months off from about October to January, and I put my foot in my cycle shoe, and it didn't fit. And I was surprised that I had missed that, because I had started to grow out of all those any closed-toed shoes, casual or running, and none of them fit anymore. No, not fit, but like I could feel the sides of my big toe and my small toe hitting the sides. So yeah, it was January 2012 that I realized that this issue is bigger than just, say, running or a lifestyle choice. And that's where, in the end, I'm focused on a lot of things about the footwear in general and just what the foot can do. But now we fast forward, we're at 3-4 years later. No, sorry, what are we at? 3 years later. And I had the opportunity to live in Costa Rica pretty much without shoes for the last winter, this past 6 months. And my foot just kept growing and growing and growing.
Wow.
I mean, it's not outrageous, but it's just strong. And my feet are now the same size, left and right. And now I realize that the only reason the left foot was any bigger all my life that I've remembered it was because I use it more. When I do most everything, and I zoned in on a couple lifestyle choices, but habits of how I use my left leg a lot more for obvious reasons of being right-handed. That came out. So I could talk a lot more. I'm going to kind of stop there, but that's what got me to realize being able to be so foot-free for so long, seeing what the foot did, realizing that because I'm right-handed, I was using my left leg a lot more in daily life, sweeping the floors, the countertops, washing dishes, brushing my teeth. My left leg was just a lot stronger on the ground. And so it was a combination of me zoning in on the foot, lifestyle choices, having the bandwidth and the time to kind of zone in during my days, and realizing ultimately that we could be making a lot of change and that the foot is capable of so much more.
Now, because I know a lot of strength coaches right now, this is the Strength Coach Podcast, they're listening and they're saying, okay, where did this start? Because, they don't know the backstory. I do know that you had some injuries on that whole right side for a while, and that's where you led up, like you said, when you were at AP, you realized that, no VMO, atrophy in the VMO. That was all a case of... Was that a case from you that time when you rolled your right foot and you hurt your right ankle and then you started compensating? Is that where it comes from, or was there something else?
Great question, because I lived 10 years not knowing. I give you the 10 years, not knowing why it was my right side. And then I kind of had that epiphany. Oh, that old ankle injury when I was 16 and now I'm 26 and it was that. And I lived another 10 years thinking it was that. And and during those 10 years with Exos, also thinking, but isn't there anything I could do to kind of erase from the body? I mean, that one little injury, right? Thinking it was that. So I did live another 10 years thinking, well, is there a way to get over it? And I got closer and closer. The body got better and better. And there was times I've been free of chronic injury since I walked in Exos's doors in 2004 in my entire life since then. So just saying, obviously things are going well, but I still had my right side's just still different. And it wasn't until Costa Rica this year I had another epiphany now at 38 that I sat in with a structural integrationist guy. This is what's really interesting. And he gave me a foot drill, seeing that my right foot wasn't as stacked as my left as usual, but minimal, but still there. And he gave me this drill that stacked my foot, in one kind of strong, mindful push into the ground, spread the toes, and all of a sudden it looks great. But then you start to walk.
Jessie, can you just backtrack really? Can you just explain what stacked is in case anybody doesn't realize what it means?
Sure. Stacked. If I think about looking at the foot, I think of the tibia. Under that is the talus, and under that's the calcaneus. And if you were to look from the back of the foot, you might, a well-stacked foot would have those in line, as they should be anatomically. And, instead of collapsing inward often that we see with weak feet. So stacked to me in that way is like almost like anything, that the spine, the bones are stacked on top of each other. anatomically correctly, naturally. So in the foot's case, that's what that means. My right foot typically was a bit weaker and collapsed just slightly. I've had it horribly collapsed. I mean, I had a very flat foot on that side at some point in my career, and I built it back up. But in this case, it's just slightly off that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
Yeah. So in which case, he's looking at my foot and you can see it from the backside. If you look, my right foot slightly just collapsed inward. I'm talking millimeters at this point, but hey, I'm trying to unearth all of this stuff. And so he kind of gave me a drill where you push your heel into the ground and extend your pinky toe out as far as you can, and then put one metatarsal down at a time. And all of a sudden you've got this strong foot that looks just like now my left foot, great and stacked, I'll call it, and aligned. And it wasn't... It was great until I start walking. I was very aware that, that was just for a moment, and how do I get it to stay that way? And I went home, started sweeping the floor. It's quite dusty there. And I realized that anywhere I wanted to sweep on the floor, I was lunging into my left leg. Whether I had to go left or right or front or back, I was getting wherever I had to get with that broom with my left leg. And I looked down and it's all that nice and stacked and lunged position. And then I swapped hands, which I've been doing lately, with different lifestyle tasks, switching hands. And so I switched and I did it on my right side. Ooh, let me backtrack. While I was doing it on my left side and left foot lunging, I looked back at my right foot. My right foot was off the ground. Slightly, right? Like 80% of my weight was on my left foot and 20% was on my right. My big toe was off the ground on my right foot. It was just kind of hanging back there, right? And exactly how it lives, exactly what I'm trying to correct. That's what was happening. So I swapped hands and I did it with my right foot and I lunged into my right foot, and it was the perfectly stacked foot. Of course, we all know lunges, but this is the implications. I was lunging forward in that right foot without shoes. My foot was awesomely stacked, and now it had 80% of my weight on it versus, say, the 20 on the left foot in that instance. How many repetitions in my life do I do with my right hand and my left leg? And kind of, at least for me, I'm a very strong, active person, so it added up. And so in that moment, I realized a couple things, that it was my lifestyle habits, my contralateral habits that have gotten me to this point. And absolutely since then, and that would have been, say, March, I've just that simple fact alone, by looking more at my lifestyle habits and taking off my footwear so that the foot actually, we can talk about that in a second, actual foot function can engage that entire lunge that you might do instead of shutting it down at all. So using the full foot and lunging into with daily habits. And believe me, we walk around, I can do a whole hike up a mountain and use my left leg more than my right, it turns out. And you would think, well, I just got up it with my right and my left leg. But I realized that even in my hiking, I'll step over a rock and I'll lower myself down every time on my left leg. And you'll have thought you did the same work going up and down that trail, and I haven't. And so I've zoned into that in my life. And I tell you, in just a few months, I'm incredibly more balanced, and my feet, and that stacking bit, my right foot is totally fixed, actually.
Yeah, and I know what you mean, because in the 90s I had a knee injury on my right side. I lived in Manhattan, and I had a fourth floor walk up, and I was bartending. And two things that I constantly did was, when I had to get a bottle of alcohol underneath the bar, right underneath, I had to go down and crouch down, I would almost do like a single leg squat with my left leg. And so I would go down and then I would come up and I would grab the counter and kind of pull myself up, not using my right leg at all. And then when I would go home, I would mostly go up the fourth floor walk up a lot of times with my left leg. And so my right side atrophied, and that's when I kind of got nervous. I looked down, similar to your, in the shower story. I looked down at the right side. I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to the doctor. But I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I think those lifestyle things are tough in terms of our clients and our athletes, because first of all, you are, a world-class athlete with great body awareness to realize some of these things, right? Like he was asking me, told me to stand there, my physical therapist, and he saw that I was leaning to my left side. I didn't even realize I was doing it. So every time I was waiting for a subway or whatever, I would be on my left side. And that's going to cause problems, obviously, in the back and the left hip, etc. So I started to become aware of it. But, for the people that are out there listening and basically things that we have to recommend, it's hard to try to change people's lifestyle habits with things of, activities of daily living. What are some other things that maybe you were doing in the gym that you realized, wow, this is crazy, I need to fix that?
Yeah. If I'm asking you, are you asking if I was to, what was I doing in the gym?
No, I'm just saying, was there things that you had to change in the gym that you started to say, wow, like the epiphanies of like sweeping.
Right. No, you know what? That's the thing. The one time I didn't have to think about this was when I was at Exos for each of the start of all my seasons. So I'd arrive to Exos, I'd be very unstable, imbalanced, not very, but enough that I literally was thinking, I hope I can come to Exos at the start of every year of my life, even when I'm not an athlete, because it was kind of that I want to be able to correct everything and make sure I have press the reset button every year to make sure I keep going, thinking that I had to do that. That said, to your point, in the gym, that's why the gym, and I'll take that to outdoors and lifestyle in a second, but I have spent quite a bit of time in the gym, that without thinking and just following that programming, we did, right, the same things on both sides. So the gym work inherently fixed me, and that's why when I said I took the 2 years off, and in 2006 I was invincible, because I was training with them, because I was in the gym, and even if what I was doing in the gym was correcting me and strengthening me on every side, so that my lifestyle habits affected me less. So, right. So that's a big deal. You hit the gym and you're actually using, both sides. And when I had a hitch in my squat, when I first arrived, I would kind of veer over to my left every time I took the weight down. And I remember Craig saying to me, put more weight on your right leg when you go up and down. So quickly early on in the gym, as long as you're hitting the gym or moving weight or doing things, it wasn't an actual movement. It could be single leg, it could be two legs, a combination of both, of course. That absolutely will help this to make that your baseline, instead of your lifestyle choices. I think what happens today is people's lifestyle choices affect, meaning their movements and their lifestyle affect and rule everything else they do, right? They bring their poor thoracic spinal mobility to the gym and then do their gym work without supervision, potentially that way as well, versus if you get the right stuff done in the gym, your lifestyle choices will affect you less, and it'll be easier to actually move properly. So I don't know if that answers your question, but a gym session, like I was lunging into both legs. Well, if you're doing that, that's going to be great for balancing this out if you implement it.
Agreed. And the importance of single leg work right there too.
Correct. Yeah, combination definitely, I think, for many reasons, right? Taking that though into
go ahead.
Just taking that, my life has changed into the outdoors, and I think it's helpful that I spent so much time in the gym. It's true, and I know a lot, but I have to say this variability of movement, that has to be a whole nother aspect of even talking feet, right? With the amount of joints in the foot and the amount of joints in our body and the amount of vectors and ranges of motion, and not just linear and lateral, that multi-directional work and all that. And that's what, we can, whether you want to expound or what, I have to say my lifestyle has absolutely gone to the outdoors and gone to, more animal type movements. And I think that's just been a huge deal. I think correctives in the gym and potential training to another goal is huge. And like you said, for balancing out the body like we did. But we've also got to talk about this more animal-like and natural movements and all these planes like play. True.
Very cool. Well, talk to us first before we get to that. Let's stay in the gym, right? The gym that we know, the traditional gym. And for the strength coaches out there and the trainers out there, what are some things that they should know about the foot, and B, that we should be looking for, not really from an assessment perspective, although, that's fine too, but let's just talk about what should we know about the foot. Because again, you were talking about educating people about the foot. And what should we know about the foot, and what are some things that we should be looking for, and maybe some things that we should start to be doing?
Yes. Okay. Things to know about the foot. I like to say my tagline for organization, the company Feet Freaks, is that you are a superstructure Our bodies are superstructure, and the feet are the built-in base. So the feet are absolutely designed to be this capable, wide, dense, strong, mobile structure. And up to this point, we have absolutely not been respecting it that way and utilizing it for that purpose. That alone says that, well, specifically then, what is the foot capable of? Being such a wide base, you got to look immediately just at the form and the structure of it versus even what it can do. But the structure, having the toes the widest, which kids are born every second, right? You can picture a baby's foot. We were born geniusly to have those toes the widest part of our foot. And when you're talking strength training in the gym, wanting the widest base of strongest and stablest base of support, that's where this foot shape comes into play. And I think it's very important. Everyone's got very different feet shape today as adults, but we have a new generation of kids coming up that are born every second. So we can make change as adults to potentially get back to this wider base of support. But these kids, we need to do them justice, that they could walk into that gym when they are 15, 16, 17 years old, starting a major, training session, and have this foot that's truly that wide. So that said, this spade shape could be extremely important for a number of reasons. It's wider. You can relate to that. And we can talk that alignment, of those rays, those metatarsal joints and the rays of each toe fanning outward, providing that. So that I would love people to realize, and those who do know some anatomy and physiology and any of the joints of the body that you already are familiar with, you just got to realize that the foot is no different. So that big toe joint just wants to move up and down, just like our knee, correct? And if the knee was curved as much as these shoes and these feet are doing, can you imagine that there wouldn't be much stability in there to work from? And we're meant to walk off that toe and every single time. So the impact of that big toe not being out and wide and working for you is huge, both with just the wide base. But then I'll fast forward quickly to the biofeedback that the foot can provide to the brain in order for the brain to reflexively engage the stabilizers. So we're talking, if your foot is wide and able to take in so much more information. Let's say you're now in a squat in a shoe, which is squishing your foot potentially, even if it's 5 fingers, and you're a bit removed from the ground, hardly, but still. And now your foot is flat on the ground and getting all this information. And as you move that weight, the foot is engaging. You're getting so much information to turn on those stabilizer muscles in the hips and the core more than you would before. So this is a huge, this could be its own topic, right? But I know Gray Cook's, one of his articles just talking about that stabilizers are reflex engaged, and you cannot think about engaging your stabilizers. So getting more input from the ground contact and any movement, hopping, skipping, jumping, squatting, being settled on the ground, is the more feedback you can get to the brain to say, please hold my hips up, hold my spine up, hold my, stabilize my core so I can move because you're loading me. You get a lot more information from the foot. So we need to get it. I think that is a huge focus for everyone, a wider base. And the functionality being it provides the information from which the body needs to move. And we are extremely shutting that down most often.
So is it as easy, though, as just kind of taking the shoes off in the gym, or is that going to do, and is that enough? And what's the cautionary tale? Because like I said before with Vibram, there was a lot of people who went out, started running barefoot for 5 miles, which was, and we're getting stress fractures. They didn't, it's almost like saying go and deadlift 400 pounds right now, even though you've never deadlift before. There need to be some progression there.
Sure.
So is it as easy as just saying, okay, guys, you know what, we're going to start, we have to do what we can. For trainers and we're strength coaches, what can we do here? We know when they walk out the door, hopefully we can influence them. But what can we do in the gym? Really, is it just as easy as taking the shoes off?
Correct. But again, in the gym, I would think ranges of motion and strength and stability of these joints, just like you would any joint. How much would you load someone's shoulder, right? If it was weak and unstable to start, you might give them 2 pounds, right? Hold up your thoracic spine and give them a 2-pound weight. You would not give them a 25-pound weight to try to do say a shoulder press or something, right? If it was like that. And the foot, that is what most feet are unfortunately like today. So just start seeing the foot as any one of these joints that you already know of, and that how much would you actually load it? So body weight in that way, absolutely, like you said, we went to more extreme efforts with these feet right away. But I'm talking about walking. Even just walking, the toe dorsiflexion that occurs with barefoot walking on the floor in the same gym you're in already, and those feet will be working so much more than they would have in shoes. And from there, you can start just doing your static movements, absolutely your static movements with those feet. When you with the more bare feet, anytime you do not need to protect that foot from cold or sharp, or temperatures rather, or sharp, I would have no footwear on. You will simply be using more muscles and more ranges of motion immediately. And unlike any joint, the big toe to the ankle, to the knee, to the hip, you limit any one of those. Everyone knows that. If your ankles are limited, you're not going to get the most from your hip, right? And in a squatting pattern, in our natural patterns. So you're limiting that big toe joint in any one of these bounding, hopping, skipping motions that would include any kind of toe dorsiflexion, and you're going to be absolutely limited in what you get out of those other joints up the chain. So simple as that. I would like any joint, I would be using shoes as little as possible. You will be working and having more muscles engaged in that foot. And if that is your stable base, you have more muscles engaged to move everything from that's above it. So and then you start to talk, what surface are you on in the gym? If you've got nice turf outside, if it's all hard concrete, that's a big deal as to what you can do, how much you should do as soon, and what what level of, say, plyometrics you do, or say any kind of elasticity, I should use that word. So let's say, we all know you can progress elasticity, which means you can hop over one line off the ground an inch. You can do very small movements up or out laterally or multidirectionally, inches off the ground. You can do that feet off the ground, start with inches to start. And of course, depending on the surface, you can do more or less to start as well. So really just think about this dynamic environment and what's your surface area, what static movements, what dynamic movements are you going to do, and absolutely build it up that way, just like you would almost any other joint.
Good stuff. I mean, I think for me is one of the things that I really started to do or realize, exactly what you're saying is when I did go down and see Todd, right, and just talking about his locomotion and really this, running and skipping and these lateral movements and then moving in a circle, because, we were kind of producing and reducing forces from every single angle in that foot. And I think it really helped me a lot. And that's where I started it really helped me change my programming after going and kind of experiencing that. So, but just let's move on. We have a little bit more time left. And I want to talk about, because, okay, we did that. We got him in the gym, but part of the problem too, like you were saying before, is the footwear, and part of your mission is to inspire change in footwear design that results in at least one option per category of footwear that honors the natural shape of the foot. And I think that's part of the problem too. Is we do all this stuff, but then our people are going and putting these crappy, I always call them clod hoppers, the clod hoppers on. Talk to us about this idea about the change in footwear design, just a little background in that.
Sure. It's expanded even since I've launched Feet Freaks about a month ago, but what I've learned but let's be simple. If tomorrow we took the same footwear on the market and we did a few things to it, we had the toes the widest part, which is a shift in fashion. And you know what? We got to throw fashion ruling our footwear out of the door if we're talking, especially on this podcast, about function. But fashion is what has totally, and your comfort level and what you're looking at on your foot has totally affected what people's decisions and choices, and not what the foot can do. So if tomorrow we could have footwear that offered the toes the widest part of the foot, and that said, not only in standing, but splaying. Now, most adults' feet these days do not splay as they should because we've been wearing footwear and the muscles and the joints just do not work that way anymore. So that's a big deal. But a truly awesome shoe would allow for a vector, a line out straight out wide for the little toe and the big toe to the ends of those toes. The other thing it would be is, and we've heard this is nothing too new, but a flat on the ground, right? And as close to the ground as possible for what you want to do with it. And we can talk cushioning is another story, is about preference and surface that you're on, but ultimately flat. And what we don't have now is flat heels. This blows my absolute mind, and how we got away from this zero drop thing. And ultimately, I've written a blog as well, you could see it there, that talks about toe spring and how we need to expand zero drop to being involving the toes as well. So right now, most shoes toe spring up, and people wear shoes all day long, which means even when it was implemented in the toe spring to do something for your running and your walking, which is really negligent as to why it's even in there anyway, because it holds your toes in a cast, in a toe sprung position. People are just standing around daily with their toes sprung up while standing in line for the grocery. So we've got that zero drop needs to come back and allow the foot for that. And so at the very least, I think I was trying to say, at the very least, if we had a different shoe last, and I was trying to educate people on the concept of a last, which is to say the space with which your foot is in the shoe, I would like to see those two changes. The third one of those changes would be the dorsiflexion at the toes. Shoe footwear is in that foam, and those soles do not allow full foot flexion, which we get up to, say, 60% in every step, or 60 degrees rather, 90 degrees in every running stride or hop and skip and jump. And footwear does not allow for this toe dorsiflexion at all. And that's what's a key cause of our weak feet, because if you cannot dorsiflex at the toe to that 90 degrees, which shoes, you know, Anthony, right, do not allow for ever. And that's what, from kids to adults, we need to keep our strong feet capable. So those three elements, immediately we could change most every shoe category with the wide spade shape, the zero drop, and the ability to dorsiflex at the toes. That said, I've been hearing great information coming from a footwear designer, a particular one, who's going to show us a video, hopefully mid-November, that talks more about being extremely dynamic with what footwear could be, which means let's talk foot function and materials. And how do we take these amazing materials we have on the planet today and utilize those to do the minimal that the foot needs to do its work? In other words, the less a shoe does for a foot, the less a shoe does to a foot, the more it does for a foot, correct? Right. So he's talking materials and dynamic, and I think we could be blown away by what's possible by footwear, and to plant that seed in people's minds would be cool. I think what I talked about first is the first step, that if we could make that subtle change in footwear across all categories, those three specific things, if not more, there's always more we could do. But this idea of being super dynamic with materials and truly minimal, and I really don't like that word anymore because it doesn't make sense as what's out there. Minimal has never really meant the toe can do its work. And so I'm not a fan of this word minimal just to say there's less materials or less cushion, because even in those minimal shoes, the big toe was completely disrespected. So those two angles are coming, and I'd love to just plant that seed. I'll be working on this idea of potentially a new last and concept that footwear companies could work with. That would be something they could easily think about and get done. Not easily, it costs money and R&D and all of that, but I think this idea that potentially in the next month or two I'll be forwarding a video out and promoting, seeing what this shoe footwear designer has to say, and I think people's minds might be blown we could go with that.
Awesome. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your all this information. You're always so passionate about whatever you're doing. And I'll remind everybody you can go to Feet Freaks, and that's spelled FeetFreex.com to see more about this and check out Jessie's blog. She's got some really cool stuff on her blog as well. So Jessie, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I would love people to swing by, and just all we're asking for is people to lend their voice to lend their voice to be just a stronger community to say, yeah, we really need to get this done. Let's do this thing. And I would love to hear from you guys too.
Very cool. All right, that's going to do it for episode 174 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Special thanks to Chris Barr, Aaron McGurr, and the folks over at Perform Better. You can check them out at performbetter.com for their products and info on their educational seminars, including the one-day seminars coming up in New Jersey starting December 5th. Thanks to Coach Boyle, Jessie Stensland for their sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning and performance enhancement. Rachel Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Jimmy Yuan and Functional Movement Systems. Check them out at functionalmovement.com. Bob Calvin for his insights into the art of coaching with Exos. Check them out at teamexos.com/education. Don't forget, audible.com is giving Strength Coach Podcast listeners a special offer. To download your free audiobook today, go to freebookfromant.com. That's freebookfromant.com for your free audiobook. And of course, remember, you can join strengthcoach.com and have access to the site for just $1. That's 3 days for just $1. Once your 3-day trial is over and you become a member, you'll be able to download Coach Boyle's 2 books, Designing Strength Training Programs and Facilities, as well as Advances in Functional Training. And remember, if you have a staff of 2 or more and you want to sign up as a group, we have a special membership offer for you, up to 50% off, depending on how many people you got. To access those offers, go to strengthcoach.com, click the Join Now button to get started on your trial. My name's Anthony Rana, and you can reach me at strengthcoachpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.